really the underpinnings of this conference for today. So Ray, thank you for being here.
Thank you. Beautiful. I want to tell you, Brent, that was fantastic, and your lovely wife, I tell you, it's awesome that you're farming like that. I think we have a lot in common. My daughter goes to college in Vermont, by the way. I love going to Vermont. I love the cheese and the apple cider donuts. They're phenomenal. If I would live in Vermont, I would look like your pet cow. I tell you, that is amazing. And Francis, I don't know why I even came. You did such a great job of giving us context. It was phenomenal. I appreciate it. And let me quickly start right here. Folks, how many of you guys farm in here? It's fantastic. How many just garden? Fantastic. Thank you for coming. And I tell you, the people that come to this type of group settings and to this type of meetings are the people that are going to change agriculture. And I said, Warren had a fantastic question. He asked, how can we get government to change? Folks, I am the government. I work in the government. It is painful. But let me put it in context, folks. Let me give you some context how things have changed dramatically. I've been with the agency 27 years. I grew up in northern New Mexico, in the border between Colorado and New Mexico. How many people have been to Santa Fe? That's where I grew up north of that. Our family has been in that area 500 years. In fact, we have our own county called Archuleta County. I escaped and married a good girl from Missouri. So life has been good, and I've been all over the country. And Warren, I'm going to tell you about your question that is, how do we get government to change? Here's how it is. We change it. And we are driving it. Folks, ladies and gentlemen, think about it. Did anything that is powerful and awesome that changed humanity come from the government down? Or did it come from the bottom up? Look at the 12 fishermen in the gospel. Look at the power of Martin Luther King. Started from the bottom. Where is this changing our government? You folks. Farmers like you are changing. I'm going to talk to you about the new movement that is growing. We call it the soil health movement. And how did it start? Farmers and ranchers. Out of desperation, ladies and gentlemen, because Francis is right. Our farmers all over the country, some of them are going broke because the high cost of inputs. I know, because I farmed in Idaho, had a small farm, and one of my farmers went broke under my care. So I take this very personally, but I had to go through a changing of my mind. I had to be educated, even though I went to 8 years of college. I was taught out of context. So how are we going to do this? We're going to educate every woman, child, every grade kid, 5th grade, 3rd grade, 1st grade. We should be connecting our people back to the land. What we have, ladies and gentlemen, we have a giant disconnectedness. Even our farmers, and I say this with humility, they live on the farm and are disconnected. I have spoke in front of 1,800, about 1,000 people at the National No-Till. I said, farmers, how many of you use a shovel to test and see and communicate with your soil and see if it's functioning? Out of all those farmers, less than 1,000% raised their hand. I said, farmers, you're disconnected. I too was disconnected. I'm not talking about a connectedness and emoting love for the land. I'm talking about a higher love. You talked about it. It's about ecology. It's understanding what you're dealing with, understanding your context. Context, context. And how are we getting our people to get reconnected? Education. We're illuminating the mind, and all of us together as a holistic whole. And I love holism. Ellen Savory. I had to re-educate myself the last 8 years ago and realized that the 8 years of college was not very helpful. I love the chemistry, I love the biology, love it all. But it taught me very fragmented science. I call it reductionist science. Now, please don't misunderstand me. We need reductionist science. But when you're dealing with an ecosystem, it has to be whole. We got to remember the parts are just as important as the whole. And we're going to start off with that. Don't worry, it's going to go back on because it's in sleep mode. Okay, I'm going to select a couple of people from the audience, and we're going to do this. We're going to start our demo. This is how I connect our people back to the land. And what we're going to do is I'm going to turn on my, I tell you, everything that I tried today, my electronics thing, kind of. Now, if you feel comfortable that you want to come and see the demonstration, please stand up and come over here. You can't see it really well. I'm going to select some people. Oh, by the way, we are going to learn together. You have name tags because I can call on you. You don't answer the question? No lunch. He goes, no, not me. Will you come and help me? Leslie, will you come up here? This is how I connect our people with this basic demonstration. Come on, Leslie, come up here. We're going to do the slate test, or the soil aggregates test. It's called the aggregate stability. Go on this side. Go on this side here. I'm going to show you two soils from North Carolina. I have lived all over the country. This process happens to all our soils. Folks, last year I went to 30 states. Last year, or the year before, same amount. Been exposed to about 10,000 people or more. And folks, I always try to collect soils from the local area because if I just collect North Carolina soils, some of you say, poor North Carolina. No, this happens everywhere. Now, here's how we're going to go. Leslie, you're going to hold a clod, an aggregate, a peg, call it whatever you want. I call them a clod growing up in school because I used to throw them with my sister. Okay, 40-year no-till. This is a 40-year no-till. It's dark colored. This comes from a no-till field. It has not used chemical fertilizer in 19 years. Has not used phosphorus in 9. He has gone down from 5 herbicides to 1 herbicide. This farmer just turned 80 on Sunday. The phenomenal farmer. Did he go to no-till? Did organic? Nope. If you follow the ecological principles that Francis was talking about today, it will go to organic by default. Here's the neighbor, same soils, conventional, 0.5% organic matter. What's the difference in this farm? Diversity, no disturbance. This farm, lots of tillage, no diversity, no covers. Okay, Leslie's going to hold one of the soils with the no-till, and what's your Amos? Right? They say right? Yeah. Now Amos and Leslie are going to drop these soils into the cylinder. They're dried. They're air dried. There's a lot of science behind this, ladies and gentlemen. A lot of calculus. It's been around for a long time. That's what's disturbing to me. And this is not taught in graduate level soil science. They touched upon it. I must have eaten the books. This is not taught in most of our land-grant universities, ladies and gentlemen. Okay? Now, we're going to drop these clods. They're filled with air spaces. The water's going to rush in to fill those air spaces. We want to see which soil holds its integrity. It holds its structure. It does not fall apart. The soil is speaking to us if we're willing to listen. It's going to speak to us. I've become a soil whisperer, right? And then like a weed whisperer, you get to learn once you start observing it. Once you have a holistic view of everything's connected. Okay, now, we're going to drop them in. We want to see which one holds together, which one falls apart. Oh, by the way, I've also done it on an organic farm. Now, stay tuned. Let's see what happens. Go ahead. I know it's hard because my camera's not working very well, but I want you to start noticing people that are close by. You notice the conventional. I was starting to fall apart. Why is it falling apart? The major difference, that gentleman tills and Ray has not tilled. What is going on? Gary, what do you think? Why do you think that conventional farm is falling apart? 0.5% organic matter. Ray's is 2.75. The forest is 3%. Before Europeans came, North Carolina soils were 3%. What have we done to the function of that soil? What do you think, Amos? What's going on? Don? Brent? Hey, let's feel comfortable. I did not know this 7 years ago. And I went to college for soils. Okay? What happened? What do you think?
One's dead, one's alive.
You got it. But what did the tillage do to that phenomenal ecosystem? It broke it up, broke up the soil structure. Folks, the moment we run that rototiller, the moment you run that disc, you open that soil to these bacteria called coprotrophic or R strategist bacteria, soil ecologists. They're in the soil. We need them because they break in. They're rapid multipliers. They break down residue. As soon as that manure pile falls, that patty falls, they multiply. We need them. But the problem with tillage is the moment you open that soil, because I did the same on my farm. You send oxygen, these bacteria go crazy, and you fed them the house. They start eating the organic matter, they start eating the biotic glues, they start eating the organo-mineral complexes. You just fed them the house. I cannot get my dad to stop tilling that rototiller. Folks, I love my organic farmers. And I can tell you a majority of our organic farmers till too much. You are not going to be sustainable. Even you. Got to get you to a level of higher level of farming. It's called natural farming. You're not finished. You're not finished. You're not finished. We got one more. So, let's make it real quick. Folks, nature does not till. Nature does not till. Earthworm is my tillage equipment. The critters, let them, the roots, let them do their business. That's why I love what Rodale's doing. They're heading to organic no-till. But you can't make organic no-till, in my mind, function or work without animals. It's not going to work. Weeds will eat your lunch. We're supposed to have these two systems integrated. Now, let's go to the next level. Oh, by the way, race tires, last year, have we not had drought? I've been living in North Carolina 8 years. 6 out of those 8 years we've been in drought. Ray grew silage corn, ladies and gentlemen, with less than 11 inches. Less than 11 inches. Now, ready for the next one? Okay, Leslie, Isdale, do the no-till. Amos, stand up over here. Don't worry, you're not going to fall. Okay, now, I know the camera's pretty poor. I apologize. Everything went haywire. If you guys want to see this, stand up. Come in a little closer. You can see this. What we're going to do is we're going to make it rain. We're going to create a miniature water cycle. We're going to pour the water into the no-till, and we're going to see which one. Now, Don, your job is make sure if you can, it's kind of hard, which one gets water, lets the water filtrate through. Leslie's the no-till. Amos is the conventional vegetable farm. You ready? Pour. I want you to see that yourself. And you can do it on your own soils. We want to see, oh my goodness, the no-till. See, I grew up thinking if I mix that soil, I make it more fluffy, I make it more arid. How many thought that? Everybody should raise their hand. I did the same thing. What I was doing, I was getting the coprotrophic bacteria all excited. They were eating the glues, eating the organic matter, and the pores collapsed. I did not know I was destroying the soil ecosystem. Tillage is very destructive. Sorry. Didn't design it that way. That's just the way it is. We've known it in the literature. The organic matter goes up. Well, guess what else we do? The moment you till, you bring weed seeds to the top of the surface. And the weeds say, thank you very much. They're nature's scabs. They're nature's healers. There's a disturbance in the forest. Weeds are the first one. If you have weed problems, I go to your place. You're overgrazing, and you're tilling too much. The weeds are telling you. They're speaking to you. Now, look at this. Those two farms are butt up against Reedsville Lake. Where do you think the fertilizer went on that one? Ran right off. Where'd the no-till? Water filtrated. This one holds more water because it has more organic matter. It holds more nutrients. It holds more of everything. Now, any questions about this so far? Now, we just don't have enough time for another demo, but that's cool. Now, I'm ready to connect to my farmers. Now, before we even talk about grazing, I don't talk about grazing until we do this demonstration first. I don't talk about grazing. I don't talk about tools. No-till is a tool. Cover crops are a tool. Why are we doing what we do? Thank you very much. Give him a hand. Sorry, my camera was not that great. It just seems like it just works that way, you know? When you want all things to kind of work out, it just don't work out that well. Okay. Now, let's continue on our journey, because I'm going to tell you, folks, it's been a journey for me because I grew up in conventional agriculture. So, this has been a complete mindset. You want to lower the lights a little bit? Can you guys see real well? Okay, fantastic. Healthy soils, healthy food. Folks, I'm so excited about it. I can't stand it every time I talk about this because I see the change that's going on in our country. There is a lot of hope going on. There's a lot of good things going on, and because if we get our soils healthy, I'm convinced we address a majority of our resource issues, even energy. Now, beautiful thing, Francis, you did for me. Francis did a lot of my PowerPoint. So I'm going to skip real quick, but I'm going to tell you my number one thing. Several of my three principles I go by. Context, context, context. My goodness. Folks, if you're a young person wanting to go into farming, look at your ecological context. Emulate nature. She sets the goal. She sets the pattern. Don't look at your context. Look at her context. Interpret all your science from her context. Another thing, when I go work with my farmer, when I walk, first time you invite me to your farm, I'm going to automatically assume it's a degraded system. Until you prove me otherwise. 30-minute discussion, me and my shovel, and I know where you're at. I have to assume when you guys go buy a farm, because my daughter and I want a farm, if I want to move to Missouri eventually, I'm going to assume it's a degraded resource. That's just the way it is. We've had hundreds of years of tillage, and that's just the way it is. The other context Francis talked about, we need to know our global context, where we are energy-wise, folks. We are no longer about the United States. It's about China. It's about India. It's changed. It's changed our total dynamics. Now, another thing I think about too is the soil is a habitat. Folks, unless we look at that soil as a living ecosystem and a habitat, you will never clean yourself from chemical inputs. I'm sorry, you just won't. And we can't afford it. So how do we do that? Disturb the soil less? Cover, 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 cover. Oh my goodness, cover. Then, the other, very critical, because we're all here about, all of us are about food. I love to eat. My goodness, all of us love to eat. So do my microbes. And you know what they like to eat? The same thing you like. Carbon. Carbon, carbon, carbon. When I walked out of college, they told me it was N, P, and K. It is carbon. I get the carbon cycle fixed, NP&K will come. Let me show you. But here's the biggest problem we have. One of my famous friend ranchers in North Dakota is the human mind. It is us. It is hard to educate a man if his check depends upon it. It's really tough. That's why I do my demonstrations, because you know what? A majority would shut me out. I let the soil speak to you. Then we can have a conversation. But it's the human mind. That's our issue. It's the way we view our ecosystem. This is what our thought process has led us to, ladies and gentlemen. I grew up thinking this is normal. The soil is naked, hungry, thirsty, and running a fever. When I cross all over the land, this is what I see. It's naked because it does not have its covering. It's got to be covered 24/7. Hungry because those living plants are the conduits that feed that ecosystem. It's thirsty because most of the water is running off, as you can see. And those temperatures get to 150 degrees when the soil temperature, folks. Bacteria start dying at 140. Enzyme activity starts shutting down at 113. And that's part of nutrient cycling. Let's continue in our journey. This is taken in my iPhone. I sit in the window seat and I said, look, the soil is bare. People look at me like, you're a freak. They don't want to even sit by me. It just drives me crazy because I know the implications. Look at here. I told our beloved EPA, EPA, we don't have a runoff problem. We have an infiltration problem. They look at me and what? Is Ray smoking too much cover crops? Folks, I will tell you, our lakes and reservoirs are filled with conservation plans and nutrient management plans, but they're not crystal clear with understanding. The moment you say runoff, you're going to stand behind a diaper and it's too late. The buffers are diapers, ladies and gentlemen. I like diapers, we need them. But the land has to be covered. That raindrop is coming at 20 miles an hour. Water's not working, the soil's not functioning. Runoff is a symptom of the soil's not functioning. Okay? Let's make that clear. Look at our beloved country. October 19th, Kansas City. Soil blue, just last month, October 19th. No, we're in December. 2 months ago. Soil blue, 7-car wreck. Look at my beloved lake right next to where we live. Look at my beautiful buffers. It's gorgeous. How come the rivers and lakes are still looking that way? Because we have an infiltration problem, folks. We have a soil function problem. Look at Lubbock, Texas. I drove through all of Lubbock, Texas 2 months ago. No, 3 months ago. All through Texas. It breaks my heart. We have desertification going on. But the reason I'm going through this real quickly because Francis was right. But we have the solution. Oh, and say that the science is not there. Oh, folks, it's been a long time. Dr. Rakowski from ARS has this really cool machine with a little laptop, and you put it in there, and as soon as you till, it measures the CO2 coming off. Look at this. Chisel plow, mower plow, subsoil tillage. There it goes, Grandpa's farm into the atmosphere. It's the way we farm is also critical, how it impacts our food. Can you imagine those are the two same soils, ladies and gentlemen? Same soils. Nature's way of doing business, man's way of doing business. Now, talk about food. Folks, unless we build the carbon, the organic matter, get the soil ecosystem working, we can't get the pH right. We can't get all these nutrients so that we can assimilate them so when the microbes are doing their business. How do we get those phenomenal nutrients, those phytonutrients? How does that impact our quality of our food? It does. UK Ministry of Agriculture. Look how much from 1940 to 1991. Look at the copper reduced, the calcium, the iron. Look at all the reduction from 1940 to 1991. What happened in 1940s? What kicked in? Fertilizer. Chemical fertilizer. Am I opposed to chemical fertilizer? No. I work with every farmer where they're at. They'll come to their own conclusion themselves. My job, as I go all over the country, you know what the number one thing farmers tell me? Ray, the cost of fertilizer killing me. The cost of inputs are killing me. Could it be a blessing in disguise that energy is going to get so expensive that we're all going to shift to this type of agriculture? I think it might. And look about this, mineral depletion in the meat. It's also been reduced. Look at the Australian food and vegetables. Also reduction. I got this from Mr. Coleman Sice, from a farmer in Australia. I got to speak, phenomenal speaker. Look at the Canadian study showing the same reduction in the way we farm because it's not ecologically based. Oh yes, in our beloved United States. Also, we had a calcium dropping, vitamin A, C, iron. It's the way we farm and the way we process our food. Why? I call it the me world. I'm convinced our people are so disconnected. It's the me world. We're here to plug them back into the natural ecosystem. We're part of it. We're part of it. And once we plug people back in, and we empower them with knowledge and understanding and wisdom, oh my goodness, dynamic things are going to change. But I'm going to be honest with you folks. The number one reason people shift is because of economics. Very, very few farmers say, you know what? I'm going to farm this way because I know it's ecologically correct. Folks, I was a Peace Corps volunteer. Same thing happened. If you cannot feed the family, I'm sorry, they're going to strip the forest down. It's just going to happen. That's human nature. But we can teach and we can illuminate the mind. Here you're talking about China, 60-mile pileup. Can you imagine being caught behind that? 2009, they bought more cars than the United States did. You need to understand our context. Things are changing, the dynamics. Here's our challenge. Energy and water. Huge, huge, huge challenge. But we got the solution. I'm very hopeful for agriculture. I have never seen such an exciting time. In fact, my daughter is going to get a degree in agriculture. Because I tell you, there's a lot of hope. And we're going to connect people back to the land. And here, let me tell you what happens when we're out of context. This is a big, I think it cost NRCS 60 grand. I'm not even going to tell you what the state was. We paid to isolate those cows from the stream. Good at throwing out practices, giving out money, but are we teaching our landowners? Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to make it very clear. The soil health journey is not spending money, it's not programs, it is a wonderful journey between the landowner and myself and our employees to emulate nature. That's the journey. See, when I walked out of college, somebody told me, Ray, your goal is to emulate nature. And I love the way Bill Mollison put, nature's nothing less than organized thought. I said, wow. I want to tap into that thought process. That's what the soil health movement is. It's not about handing money, but let me show you the results. There's that. Oh yeah, we threw government money at that. Look at the stream bank. Look at the overgrazing. I go from Virginia to all over the country. I see overgrazed land. And we wonder why we have drought. I'm convinced we create a majority of our drought. But here's the hope. Here's your first homework assignment. By the way, this is a grade 8 course. I'm going to shove it down in 50 minutes. When you get a chance, I want you to go into the website called Today. And I want you to type biomimicry. There are two 20-minute videos. They're phenomenal by Janine Banyans. Awesome. Biomimicry. Mimic the biology. She says, hey, nature's got 3.8 billion years of research and development. It would make sense if she's got 10 to 30 million species that we can tap into. By the way, sorry you guys are in front row, because usually I walk around and ask questions. Jason, how did the Wright brothers learn how to fly?
They imitated the birds.
They watched the birds. Or did they smoke cover crops and go, hey man, I'm going to learn how to fly? They watched the birds. They observed from nature. Well, let's look at this. There's big ideas in biology. Look at this company now, Chrysler. They're mimicking the shape of this fish, and you know what? They're going to get 20% lower fuel consumption, 80% lower nitrogen oxide emissions. Very cool. The answers are around us. If we're watching, look at the humpback whale. They're using the fins to put it in turbines and pumps. It reduces the drag by 30-some%. Increases fuel efficiency. Very cool. How about our two little bugs of pillbug? Pillbugs never drink water. This Canadian beetle never drinks water. Their ectoskeleton has the ability to draw the water. Engineers and architects are trying to mimic that skin and put it on buildings so it can suck the water out of the humidity. Very nice. Now, this is the one I love. This is where it leads me to, I get most excited about it. She says, why don't we farm like the prairie and the forest? Why don't we grow our nutrients like she does? They do. Ma'am, what do the prairie and forest have in common?
We go back and teach.
Well, they got architecture. It's diverse. They got animals in the system. Oh my goodness. We could tap in if we understand how that works and we make our crop consistent. And I have farmers that do that are making lots and lots of money and having fun too. There's nothing wrong with that. But here's our paradigm issue, folks. This is what's our issue when I walked out of college. See, I thought the soil was a giant little chemistry set. I throw my fertilizer, boom, ions floating around. I got mass flow, interception, all these cool things that are going on, which is true. But ladies and gentlemen, that is the wrong paradigm to have of our soil ecosystem. Yes, these cations and the mineralogy and the water solution are interfacing. That is true. But I want to show you the correct paradigm. I think, see my video? I forgot my video. Shoot, okay. Okay, see right here? There are microbes jumping all over the place. I'll just give you a visual, okay? I'll show you some microbes in a little while. Folks, what's the difference between this paradigm and this one? This is ecologically based. This is run by the microbes and the plant. This is run by chemistry based, inorganic. It is biochemistry that runs the inorganic chemistry. Because we have this mindset, we're losing 40 to 60% of our N and P. We have soils that are bare for 4 to 8 months. We have decoupled the carbon and nitrogen cycle. This is where we're heading, folks. This is where we're heading. And we're heading to an ecologically based system. Now, when I came out of college, they said, they fed me, they told me, well, Ray, you gonna help feed the world. I said, baloney. I don't want to feed the world. Let the world feed themselves. Let them feed themselves. In fact, I would argue our agriculture is causing some of our people in the world to go hungry. They cannot compete with us. You got to remember, I lived in Guatemala. We harvested corn on hills like this, on volcanoes. This is the way we harvest it, by hand. And we threw it 50 foot down. They cannot compete. I say we're going to have 9 billion. We need every farmer producing. Let them feed themselves. I'm into the brown revolution, not the green revolution. The green revolution was destined to die because it was based on fossil fuel. Globalization changed all that around, ladies and gentlemen, and a lot quicker. So what do I want? My soil to function. Function, function, function. Look at, there's Ray Stires that turned 80. Dave Brand growing 230 bushels of corn with less than 70 units of fertilizer. Now we did some test studies. He's probably going to eliminate most of his fertilizer now. Rocky Brandon growing potatoes in those finger type potatoes, little small ones. He's eliminated all the sides. Pesticide, herbicide, by using some of, you know what he's using? Compost teas, compost. He's using less water for his center pivot in Colorado. Gabe Brown, he just got Farmer of the Year from the natural, what is it called? Nature Defense Fund or something like that. 6,000 acres, ladies and gentlemen, 4,000 range, 2,000 cropping. He has completely eliminated nitrogen and phosphorus in his operation. He's down to one herbicide application once every 3 years. 2,000 acres of cropland. How's he doing? Zero till, multi-species cover crop, mob grazing. He moves his cows like buffalo. And he's integrated both. Ray McCormick, he's one of the farmers in Indiana, phenomenal farmer, big on wildlife. He's also a phenomenal. I don't call them no-till farmers. I call them regenerative farmers, ecological farmers, organic farmers. You call them whatever you want. But their goal is to mimic the ecosystem. Now here's your most powerful tool. Dude, what's that? Folks, how many of you use that tool? When you start off the year, everybody's hand should be raised up, right? Mine too. Here's what I want you to see. When you get that shovel, this is what I want you to see. I want you to look for a drillosphere, a magratosphere, a detritosphere, a porosphere, and my goodness, you're going all these spheres. I said, why are you using all these words, fancy words, Ray? Because, folks, that research was done by some of the top scientists. Coleman, Baird, Grossley, Hendricks, Odom was the father of ecology. He said we need a worm sphere, drillosphere. The earthworms are powerful. They help nutrients be available to our plants. The roots, those plants follow the wormholes. We need a detritosphere. If somebody tells you your car looks like detritus, that means it looks like residual trash. It's residue sphere. That is so critical. And then I call the agrosphere the cottage cheese. Those crumbs. That's where where a lot of the action happens. And then the pores and the rhizosphere. These are all connected. It's like a 5-cylinder engine. I want every one of them. So in other words, when I dig a shovelful, I want to see 5 to 10 earthworms per shovelful. If you don't have 5 or 10 earthworms per shovelful, something's wrong. I want to see cottage cheese. I want to see rhizosphere. I want to see cover. Okay, now, why do I want to see that? I want you to look at this. Let's see if I got this video right. Everything seems like it. Okay, here we go. I love this video. I even made it with a little bit of music for you to get you in the mood. Look at this. Love this. Lower that a little bit. This was taken by Odette Menard from Quebec with a special nighttime camera. Look at those babies. I was born to do that. Oh, look. Can you imagine if I told one of you, hey, you go check the corn, you go check the corn. You're afraid you fall, trip, and then take you down, right? Look at that, baby. Man, that is awesome. I want many of those in that's my tillage equipment, folks. That is my tillage equipment. And you know what they don't like? Oh, I would like that worm. Hey, David, what did I tell you? Go check the corn. No, you said, Ray, you go check the corn. That would scare me. I wouldn't even go out in the field on that. Folks, what do they don't like? They don't like tillage. They don't like a lot of the chemicals we put on the ground. They want food. You need 4 times the biology to feed them. If you have a residue problem, you have a biology problem. Your residue should be disappearing very quickly. Now, here's the most powerful tool you can do to stimulate your soil. You ready? Best way to control weeds.
As the pollution is removed from the water.
Hold on, I was supposed to not hold on a second. I'll do the talking. Let's see, I get here. Can we shut this right here? I'm gonna, you ready? Ready? I think so. Okay, go. Thank you. Now, folks, most powerful thing to get rid of weeds. You ready? Another living plant. You will never till them, and you will never spray them to death. I'm sorry. They're designed to be there. Folks, the moment I put a living root, that plant sends chemical signatures, chemicals communicating to the biology to build this powerful relationship. Look at this film of sugar. These roots are coming down at 1,400 psi. How do I break my compaction layers? I plant the right covers. I don't have to put diesel in it. I don't have to pay it overtime. Just like my earthworms. Use an ecological way to deal with your problems on your farm. Not a physical and a chemical. Biological. Look at the protozoa feeding on that bacteria. Most of nutrient cycling, the most of our vitamins that our foods come from that interaction. It's the biology, ladies and gentlemen, that gives us phenomenal food. The vitamins get sucked up, the minerals get sucked up, and they go into food. Everything's connected. That's why I love quantum physics and ecology. Everything is one. Now, what do I want leaking out of that? I want amino acids, organic acids. I want all those cool things leaking. The moment I put a living cover, that's what happens to my soils. They drive the system. Let me show you a scum test. Look at here. Alfalfa, look how much of these biotic agents are leaked. Alfalfa, big blue stem, phenomenal. Look at the results of some of these, because I planted the right cover. Look at the spring weed suppression. No cover crop, cover. If I know how to use the right covers, I don't have to turn the tractor on. It costs me $20 an acre to go put a herbicide application. Understanding what you're doing. Right here, folks, these mycorrhizae are very critical. Glomalin, glomalin, organic matter, some of the stuff that is keeping these biotic glues and keeping our soils intact. These things do not tolerate tillage. They help us get through the drought. They pick up zinc, they pick up iron, they pick up all the cool stuff so that it goes into the plant. So you've got a healthy soil, healthy plant, healthy animal. It's connected. Folks, this is really cool. This is an electron microscope. Do you know what those little bumps on that fungus are? Calcium crystals. If the soil biology is not intact, how can you expect to hold some of your critical nutrients in place? The biology, it's all about the biology. The biology drives the physical and the chemical. Now, when I go all over the country, this is what I see. If I go up in the plain states, I see wheat fallow. Sir, is that going to work? Is that a good system, wheat fallow? It's a disaster. The prairies were always covered. How about that? Is that going to work, ma'am? Continuous wheat?
You need a rotation.
You need a rotation. What happens if we don't put a rotation?
Monoculture.
Is that good or bad? Come on, speak out, guys. You be bold. It is bad. Why? There is no diversity. Inputs will eat your lunch. You'll have disease and pest. Nature doesn't want to see the same root in the soil year after year. Is this getting better there, David? That's looking better. How about that, folks? Is that looking really good? That's looking better. What's missing there? My cows. My grazers. Now, you know what I love about this? It's the architecture, ladies and gentlemen. Look at the ecological architecture. Different roots, different canopy. You're creating a different niche. Oh my goodness, you know what you're doing? Resilience. Prairies can tolerate drought really well. Have you ever seen anybody irrigate the prairie with an irrigation truck? Somebody fertilizing it at night? No. We want, here's the picture of the prairie. Look at this. That's why, ladies and gentlemen, now, when I design cover crop mixes for my farmers, we have 8 or 10, 12 species in it. We're doing 10 or 12 cover crop species. Because then I can sequester nutrient from bottom, I can create canopy, and guess what? They're very efficient for managing water. Let's look at it. Okay, this is another picture of the prairie. Isn't that beautiful? Look what we're trying to match. We have farmers that are doing that right now. Okay, when did I start changing my paradigm? This was the year. This is where I started going, I'm going to take my graduate wheat soil of my graduate wheat class and throw it in the trash. Right here, it's made me realize that I realize nature is more collaborative than she's competitive. I learned this from North Dakota. I'm a slow learner. I have to go all over the world to learn. We had a very bad drought when they did this plot. 1.8 inches. This North Dakota only gets 16 to 17 inches a year, ladies and gentlemen. It's 120 frost-free days. It is so cold, when the wind blows, the snot will freeze to your face. It is cold. So if they're making it work, why can't we make it work here? Here's what they're doing. During that drought, they planted lupins, oilseed, pascha, purple, cowpea. They did it in all this. They did this really nice demonstration. And then on this plot, they threw all the seed together. Look at the difference in biomass. But let's visually look at it. Turnip? That's what I expect up to 8.8 inches, right? What's your name? Jonathan. 1.8 inches, huh? It should look like that, right? Monoculture? How about the other monoculture, oilseed? Now look what happens when we throw them all together. 1.8 inches, the plot right next door. I thought, if I put my plants together, they're going to steal water and nutrients. Anybody else think that way? Sunlight and stealing off? That's what I was taught. That's why when I got to college, spray, baby, spray. I realize now, if I put up the right design, I can get collaboration. I can work with the ecosystem. What are we telling our farmers? There's your crop. Cover the leaks. Cover the leaks. I tell our farmers, you cannot afford to leave that ground bare at the end of the year. I don't care if you got corn. Shorten the varieties. We have varieties now that are 90-day varieties, 100-day varieties. It's just as good as the 119. I don't want leakage of my nutrients. I want to feed my soil biology. I want to glean myself from herbicides and chemical fertilizer as much as possible through my living covers. Look at this gentleman in Kentucky, ladies and gentlemen. That is 70 to 90 bushel cereal rye. He's using a no-till planter and planting right into it. Look at my detritus sphere, my residue sphere. Most of you would freak out if you had to plant into that, right? Right? Would that get you scared if it rise that high? You know what I love about grazers? Send the cows out. Absolutely, send the cows out. They ain't no-till into it. Look at that no-till planter. No problem. And look at that soybean coming out of that. When the raindrop comes, and it comes hard, my soil's protected. Oh, by the way, any people that farm this way, their soybeans get 10 more bushels per acre. Look at my no-till tomatoes, Steve Groff. Pennsylvania, his soil's this deep. No-till tomatoes. When the rain comes, look, you see any weed pressure? Cereal rye is phenomenal for weeds, ladies and gentlemen. Pigweed hates cereal rye. Cereal rye is fantastic. Here's my North Carolina friend. He's going to be speaking at the National No-Till Conference. He's a district director, and he says, Ray, we want you to help us. I said, okay, under one condition. What's that, Ray? You're going to North Dakota with me, and you're paying for your own plane ticket. So we did a journey to the Jerusalem of Soil Health. And we went and learned. I had to take him over there because, see, he needed to know the power. He's been doing no-till for 10 or 15 years. But I'm telling you folks, when he saw that cereal, that's an 8-way mix. It freaked him out. He'd never done that before, Rick. He said, don't panic. We'll do what my old friend Ray Starr did. We'll pull out the old cultipacker out of the weeds, roll it down, and then we pull out the corn planter. Here's where it got ugly, ladies and gentlemen. It got really ugly. A lot of residents were having problems with the drill planter. I told them do 10 acres. They did 900 acres. I did not sleep well. But guess what? I have connections. Call the right guy, one of my farmer buddies, told him what to do. He adjusted the planter, and beautiful. Look what happened. Awesomeness. And this is how we spread the seeds. This is defoliating cotton. Look at that. That's shoots cover crop seed 60 feet. They're defoliating cotton at the same time. Look at the cover. Oh, look at the corn. 180, 190 bushel corn. This year we got 3 bale cotton. Nice. And they're doing it on their own. Oh, guess what? We didn't have to do a program. I just came up with my little plastic jars. Let them come to their conclusion themselves. Folks, if you ever get a chance, you need to go to the Minokin Farm in North Dakota. It is worth going. Do you notice they don't say advancing grazing, advancing no-till? Nope, 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 tool, tool, tool. Never make the tool go. Advancing soil health. Farmers. The district bought this farm, ladies and gentlemen. 150-acre farm, depleted, 16-acre precept zone. It was depleted to about 2.75% organic matter. Those soils should be 8 to 10. So they rolled up, they did peas in July. Some they say they come out very well. Then they went and did a multi-species cover crop mix in September. They let it grow, let it winter kill. The following year, they no-till corn into it. Remember, this is the first year no-till. The degraded soil system. Here comes the corn, and here we are all in shock. This corn produced 122 bushels with no commercial fertilizer the first year. The county average for that area is 100 bushel. Folks, this is 15, 16-inch precip zone. And most of their precip comes in snow. Here on this side, no commercial fertilizer, 2-ton compost, 2 compost tea applications, 128 bushel. Jay Fuhrer will tell you that corn crop was driven by the biology. It's what leaks into the soil system to excite my microbes. They make phosphorus available, folks. They make the nutrients available. Now, let's go to Dave Brandt's real quick. I have farmers I work with all over the country. Look at Dave Brandt. That's a mix. Look at that mix. 16 5,400 pounds of biomass. I see, Brent, you like that, don't you? My cows. That little butterball out there, she would love that, wouldn't she? And you know what I tell my graziers? Only take half. The other half goes to my microbes. We take too much. Feed the micro herd. Let me show you the other mixes. There's the mix. Plot 1, plot 2, we just did some research on them. Phenomenal. We just got the research data out of it. Oh, by the way, we had a bad drought. Our first, can you imagine we do it in first class and we do it in drought? Can you figure that? This is the neighbor's vertical till, 40 to 70 bushel corn he got this year. Dave Brandt's been no-tilling and doing covers for 30 years. His average was 144 bushels. He only got 4.1 inches from May to the second week of September. In the last week of September, he got 4.7. 8.8 inches total. 144 bushel corn. How do you do it? Healthy, functioning soil. Zero till. Mix it. Emulating nature. Look at the yield. I don't have time to go over, but I want to just say real quick, we did 140 units, 70 units, and no fertilizer. I want you to focus that everywhere we had no chemical fertilizer in our mixes, they had the highest yields. How can that be? In fact, the pea radish, look at here, the blue bars, 140 units of N, 70 units are the red bars, and the no fertilizer, this is radish, 8 species mix, 9 species mix, 6 species mix, 8 species. We'll talk about that later because I don't have enough time to talk about it. Then I did the income. So of course, the ones with no fertilizer, the more in the income. But the average, this is during the drought, 174 bushels. That's pretty good. Okay. Now, I'm going to show you my cover crop mix in North Carolina. Okay. I want you to notice, this is a 10-away species mix. I got 1.5 acres. This is 1/10 of an acre. I had to put fence out there because we have a massive deer problem in North Carolina. The way we hunt deer over there is blindfold. They give you a rubber mallet. You're allowed 6 per person. Massive. But I want you to look at my 10-way mix. I just broadcasted, folks. Look at the lagoons. Look at the mix. Beautiful. Oh, I get goosebumps just thinking about that mix. Now, what did I do with my mix? Now, this is my daughter. Got my John Deere. Some toys are just, you know, my toys are small. They're not like yours, but they're small. Okay, here's what I did, ladies and gentlemen. I let my mix. So I went to Walmart and brought all kinds of squash, beans, corn, and I just threw the seed on top of the cover. I call it my chaos garden. I got the idea from the One Straw Revolution, Masanobu Fukuoka. I'm going to mess that one up bad. But let me show you what I did. Now, keep in mind, I had my covers, and I went my broadcaster and threw all my vegetable seed. It was fun. Now, look what happened. This is the way I terminated my cover. Isn't that amazing? There's my daughter, and we rolled it. One of my engineer buddies gave me an old roller. That's how I terminated the cover. No herbicides. I wanted to do it totally, no fertilizer, no herbicide for the first. This is the first year. That used to be all spruce with a pH of 4.9. Okay? Now, let me show you what happened. Because not all of it was beautiful. I got to tell you all the good, bad, and ugly. Okay, here's what happened. Folks, regular no-till, my chaos garden. The corn, the squash, the watermelon, the tomato, the marigolds all came up. It was beautiful. And some of you are saying, well, Ray, how are you going to harvest it? Folks, I step on the legumes because the legumes is not what I'm harvesting. I want my soil covered. I want it to be fed. I want diversity. So if I stepped on the peas, I don't care. That's not what I want. I want the corn. I want the watermelon. I want what I want. So, you know what I love about this garden? I do weed. Folks, I'm all over the country. Where am I going to weed? I don't have time to weed. Now, here's what I did wrong. I did a no-no. I went and put compost out there. What did I do wrong? Jeff, right? Buff? What did I do wrong, Buff? I love my garden too much. I threw compost out there during when I rolled the cover down. See, I wanted to use the compost to terminate because I didn't want the covers to come back. You know what I did wrong? I put too much carbon out there. Tied up some of the nitrogen. So next year, you know what I'm going to do? Cowpeas. And no compost. Why cowpeas? Because they love the heat and they're great nodulators. Excellent. I'm doing it again. Loved it. There's my chickens in my backyard. I want my chickens to express their chickenness. Like Joe Selton would say, I want them to express their cowness. I want them to do what they're good at. I don't want to genetically manipulate them. Let them be. This is Gabe Brown's 20-acre chaos garden. He fed he just gave food away. You know what happens with our minds that are very linear? Engineers seeing that, they go, oh my gosh, it looks like a wheat patch. Right? I love it. The pollinators love it. Everybody loves it. Okay, real quick. I've got a couple more slides. Folks, I can see you guys. Oh yeah, Ray. You should have terminated a long time ago, right? Speed it up, speed it up. Okay, hold on. I just got to show you my grazing thing. Because, folks, it's not just the cropping. Our grazing systems are really messed up. Because we're not using this template. The buffalo. Folks, do you know now, I mow my lawn only 4 times a year. All the neighbors mow it 30 times a year. Why? I'll back up real quick. Because I want a giant rhizosphere and I want a large canopy because all these ecosystem processes need to be in place. So when I walk around the neighborhood, they say to me, Ray, why don't you mow your lawn? I tell them, that's because I'm trying to develop the rhizosphere. They tell me, Ray, you're lazy. I said, whatever. You haven't seen my goats yet. Look at the mob grazing, folks. This is slur. Look from here to here, 20 minutes. Look at the manure distribution, the density. That's what I want. I want a cow pipe here, here, here to prime my microbes. I'm going to pass this. Gabe Brown's. Guess what that is not a black plastic pipe in the prairie. That is his cows. Do they have a little barn? A little jacuzzi for the little babies? Let them express what they are. Giant herbivores. That's why I love your little cow. She's tough. Man, that little cow. Our cows, we messed up our genetics in our cows. Now they're used to being fed grain. They're designed for grass. Look at the mob there, folks. They're gaining 3.1 pounds a day on the multi-species cover crops. Look at this bat latch. You know what that bat latch is? It's got a little timer, solar powered. They're $400 a piece. But you know what's so cool? The cows hear the buzzer, the bat latch opens, the cows move to the next paddock alone. Then Gabe's got an egg mobile. He's got the chickens following the large herd. What happened in the Serengeti? What follows the herd? The birds. Okay, better hurry up because we had a bad drought. I'll promise it's the last slides, okay? Because I can see it in your face. Get them off the stage. Folks, I get excited when we have farmers that they're grazers that are grazing grass this height. in Missouri. Mark Brownlee, his pasture 90 to 120-day recovery time. 90, mob grazing, high density, ultra high stock density. I call it adaptive grazing. Sometimes I'll do MIG, sometimes I'll do mob. I adjust to the natural system. Look what happens when you don't manage the cows right. Look at the weeds. Look what happens under Mark's situation. Weeds are a problem over there. Look at the weeds. Oops. Aww. 200,000 pounds. I missed the slide. All those weeds are gone. Look at this cow eating noxious weeds. When you mob them, they become very aggressive. No herbicide application. Okay? Wrap it up with this last slide. I can see it in your face. Ray, get off the stage. Okay, the bad drought. Folks, this is the neighbors, haying and pasturing under the drought. Well, now we're north of Springfield, Missouri. Typical rain is 35 to 40. Most of the country has suffered a lot of drought. Look at Mark's, let's look at Mark's space. The only thing that separates this, Mark's, and the neighbors is that barbed wire fence. Mark calls me and says, Ray, I get it. I said, what, Mark? What did you get? It's about the soil, isn't it? I said, that's right, Mark. You feed that soil biology, look what happens. He had clovers blossoming during the drought, ladies and gentlemen, because he understood. He's at one with the system. He's beginning to understand it. Okay? I got to wrap it up. Oh, see, there's the slide I was telling you. I misplaced it. Remember I showed you all the weeds? There's Mark Brownlee, 200,000 pounds to the acre. Weeds be gone. This is a field that used to be wheat, fescue infested. That now came on its own. Those are warm season grasses. He did not plant. He did not apply chemical fertilizer. He did not apply lime. All he did is manage the cows correctly. They came by themselves. They were manifested. The seed came by just managing right. Go ahead. I'm done. And as you're coming up here, that is Tom Madochek. Some of you say, oh, I don't have 100 cows. That's Tom mob grazing with 2 cows. 5 acres. Thank you so much, Ray.